Okay, so this is me. I've logged into TinkerCAD. I'm in my own account here. There's my account name. I'm in my design section, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to say new. So I'm going to add a new 3D design in. So it's going to open up my workspace for me. Now I can always go back by clicking up the Tinker here to go back to that home view, but now I'm in my workspace. Now one of the first things I want to do is I'm going to click on settings down here, and I'm going to set my grid. I'm going to make mine 100 by 100. Now, the reason I'm doing that is that I want to make sure that my design, when it goes in, looks quite big, but I don't want it to be the wrong size for 3D printing. So I know that if it fits on a 100 by 100 millimeter grid, it will definitely be small enough for me to 3D print. So we were working with a design that was about 80 mil. So 100 mil's a bit bigger. I'm going to go for that. I so make that as the default for the time being, and I'm going to go into it. So this grid now is basically 100 by 100, and the snap for the grid is set at 1 millimeter. I can zoom in and out using my mouse on the roll button. And what I want to do is, before I start playing around with any of the shapes that are here, I want to bring in that SVG file that we made using Illustrator. So I'm going to click on Import. It's going to say choose a file. Now, my files are over here. I'm just going to drag the one that I want. So my dog tag, I'm going to grab it and drop it in there. So that's the SVG file. So it knows it's an SVG file. Now, before I say import, I want to look at the sizes down here. So at the moment, those sizes are bigger than I want them to be. Somehow, between saving it as an SVG, the sizes have increased. So I don't want it to be 261 millimeters. I want it to be about 80. So if I type in here 80, it'll change the length as well as the width. And if I now put import, that's a much more useful size. Now it's too tall, so probably one of the first things I need to do is to change the size of that, but that's about 80 mil. So I'm going to click on the object, and you can see at the moment the height says it's 10. I don't want it to be 10 mil. I'm going to click on there, and I'm going to type in 2. I want it to be 2 mil, and that's going to shrink down to 2 mil for me. Now, it's not a very nice color either. I'm going to click on there and change the color because I don't like that color. I'm going to make it a pink color instead. Okay, so that's my initial shape. So it's taken that SVG outside line and it's filled it and made it into a solid shape. However, there's a few things I want to do to it. I want to add some text to it. I want to put a hole where it can be attached to the dog's collar, or in your case, if you do the bag tag, where you can attach it to the actual bag. So how am I going to do that? I'm going to use a few tools that you're going to have a play with. I'm going to bring out a cylinder tool first. I'm going to put it over here. Now, what I'm going to do with that cylinder tool, I'm going to stay on the top view, but I'm going to actually move so I'm focused on this one. I want to make that a much smaller size, and I don't want it anywhere near the height as well. So I'm not going to change the number of sides. I don't want it to make it look any less smooth. But what I can do is, you can see when I click up here, I've got 20. Now I don't want it to be 20. I'm going to make it about 6 and make this one about 6 as well. So now I've got a circle, or a cylinder which is 6 millimeters diameter, but it's going to be too tall. If I look at that now and put it round this way round, you can see it's way too tall. So what I want to do is change the height of it now. So if I click on it, you can see that I've got this little thing here that if I hover over it, tells me it's 20. I'm just going to drag that down until that's 2 as well. So that should be the same height now as the thickness of my bone shape. So I'm going to click off in a minute. Just going to move myself around again. Okay, so that's where I'm at the moment. What do I want to do with that? Before I attach that to this, I want to put a hole through it. So any solid can be a hole as well as a solid, literally by changing from a solid here to a hole choice on there. But that one's already been done. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing with this, but I'm going to make it slightly smaller. So I'm going to click up here. Instead of 6, I'm going to make this 2.5. And I'm going to do the same on the other dimension, make it 2.5. So now I've got this hole. Now, it's way taller than I need it to be, but that doesn't necessarily matter. But I will, just for the sake of showing you how to do it again, I'll make that a bit shorter. So I'll make that about 4. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to make both those two objects line up together. So I've got, it doesn't matter which way around this is, I want this one inside this one. So I'm just going to move them a little bit closer to start with, and I'm going to select both of them at the same time. Once they're both selected, I can come up the top here, and I've got an alignment tool. I'm going to click alignment. It looks a bit weird, but what it's saying is I want it to align to the center this way and the center this way. So now that means both those circles are directly in the middle of each other. Let's move this across so you can see it a bit nicer. I'll zoom in a bit on it. They're completely centered. Okay, what am I going to do with them? I'm going to select them both again. This time, I'm going to combine. Now, if I combine them as a group and one of them's a hole, it cuts a hole out. So that's what I wanted to do with it. So what I want to do now is I want to join, change its size. I'm going to put it roughly where I want it to go. And then I'm going to do the same thing that I did just now. And that is I'm going to select both objects and I'm going to go align again. And this time I'm going to align to the middle. Okay, that's pretty much made sure that that's gone in the middle of that bone shape. Now, if it wasn't exactly where I wanted it to be, if I wanted it to be a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right, I could literally select that part and just nudge it using my arrow keys. And if I wanted it to be even more accurate, I could change the snap grid and make it 0.5 millimeter. So now when I click it, it'll move by 0.5 millimeter each time. So I'm going to say that's probably as close as I need it to be at the moment. And guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to get both these things and I'm going to group them again, combine them together. So that's that grouped. So now I've got one solid object. It's looking a bit like a dog tag now. What do I want to do to it? I'm going to add some text. So down here in my basic shapes, there's one called text. I'm going to drag out my text tool. It's way bigger than I need it to be. And it doesn't say what I want it to, so I'm going to give it my dog's name. There we go, typed in smudge. And I'll change the height and things in a moment, but first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the corner and I'm going to resize some of this. At the moment, this is sitting on top of my shape. So again, I can do the same thing. I can highlight the whole thing like I did before, and I can align it. I can say, make it go in the middle this way, make it go in the middle this way. So now I know that that word is just where I want it to be. Okay, however, if I lift it up, and I'm going to drag it down to a more usable height. So at the moment it's 10 mil. I'm going to bring it down and I'm going to have it maybe 3 mil. So it's standing up 1 mil higher. So it's actually gone from the base level. So it's added, that's 3 mil, means it's 2 mil plus 1 mil. So that's what it's kind of going to look like. Now I could leave it in the same color, but probably if I'm going to 3D print it, the best thing to do is to group it all again. Now, obviously, if I wanted to, I could cut holes out, I could add anything else to it, I could change the shapes, add other primitives to it, but I'm happy that that's what my dog tag is going to look like. So I haven't saved it yet, or it has saved, but it's made up this name for me. So I'm going to put my own name in there. I'm going to call it Smudge Dog Tag. Okay, now yours will probably be a bag tag. I'm going to export that as well now. So I'm going to click in here and I want to be able to 3D print this. I'm going to export as an STL file. Okay, it's preparing that for me to, and it's saying, where do I want to put it? I'm going to put it back in the same place, which for me is in technology, digital tech, year 9, 3D printing, and it's my bag tag. So it's actually a dog tag, but it's the same thing. So that's an STL file. I'll hit save. So that file now, if I show you it in the folder, okay, saved with all my other stuff. There's my dog tag STL. I can give that to my teacher, and that's something we can now 3D print. Okay, but remember, you need to get a good picture of this. So what you can do is get the angle that you like before you do your screen grab, get it nice and big. And what I would do before I actually screen grab that particular thing, I would come back down to my settings down here and I would just take off my grid and my shadows for the time being. Okay, so that when I go in there, I can get a nice clean picture. Okay, if I go to my snipping tool, open up my snipping tool, say I want a new one, and I can snip pretty much the shape I want. Okay, and save that. If I go in save now, that's my snipped drawing ready to go in. Okay, maybe I better call it image, not pic, because I'm going to take a photo of it once it's printed, and I would save that into the same folder. So mine's not in the right place, so save mine into my dog tag. There's my dog tag image, and I've saved it. So that's what you need to be able to do. If you go back here now, you'll find that that's been saved in your workspace. as the latest one. There it is. So you can go back and you can tinker with this. You can open it up and change it anytime you want, or you could go in and duplicate it and do other things with it. Okay, good luck.